Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're going to be looking at the debt ceiling, really clearing up some confusion about it and what is going on with this. Now, if you've checked out any of the news, if you've seen anything in social media, a lot of people are talking about the debt ceiling. So basically, the debt ceiling is the amount of debt that the United States as a nation is allowed to carry. Now, the White House, the Republicans and Democrats are kind of at a standoff for this. So the Republicans, from my understanding, just want to go ahead and raise that debt ceiling, which we have, I believe, almost 80 times in the past probably 60 or 70 years. However, the Republicans want to lower the spending, so essentially keeping the ceiling the same, but lowering the spending or actually controlling the spending, which again is where they're at odds. So fair to raise or suspend the result in the first time ever default. We're going to go into what the default would look like, how it could affect you guys. So let's go ahead and check it out. So what is the debt ceiling? The debt ceiling is the maximum amount of money that Congress allows the federal government to cover its bills. So when you think of your budgeting and you have $4,000, let's say a month, that is the maximum amount of money that you can utilize unless you go ahead and throw in a debt ceiling or you go in, throw out a little more debt. So if you do some borrowing, if you take out some credit cards, which a lot of people are doing, you can supersede the amount of money that you make by increasing it with debt. Because the government typically spends more than it collects in taxes, which we have been notorious, it has to take out additional debt to pay its expenses. Now, if you're anything like me, you can't do this forever. It is something you're literally just kind of kicking a can down the road and just borrowing money forever. Unlike credit cards, though, the expenses were already approved by Congress, so the debt ceiling does not pertain to any new spending. Now, the debt ceiling was created during World War I. That is right, guys. In World War I, prior to 1917, Congress needed to approve everything that they spent. And then we just got kind of a ceiling, got kind of lazy with it, a lot more spending. Until recently, it's been rather routine for Congress to go ahead and lift this. Now, since 1960, we have raised the debt ceiling 78 times. Yeah, guys, think about that. Let that sink in. 78 times we have raised the debt ceiling. We started off with no debt back in World War I. The debt as of 2021 is $32 trillion. That is right, guys, 32 trillion with a T, which means we have just borrowed an absorbent amount of debt throughout the years versus just having enough money or raising enough money to essentially pay our bills. If the Congress does not lift the debt ceiling, the government will not be able to pay its bills and it will default on the debt. Just like you guys, people might not lend to you, people might send creditors. Treasury Department has already begun taking extraordinary measures to continue to fund the government. But if you've seen anything from Yellen, she expects it to be depleted in early June, which means by the middle of June, we could be right back in the same problem that we're seeing now. So what does happen if a country defaults? So if the US defaults, if it defaults on sovereign debt, it will wreak havoc on our economy. You think the economy is bad right now, guys, with the raising rates, with the rate environment, with the costs, it will just wreck not only the economy, but also the markets. So when you look at the stock market, things of that nature, default on treasury bonds would throw the US into a tailspin, which again would be kind of crazy. Last time congressional Republicans threatened a default in 2011, Standard & Poor's downgraded the United States. That is right, guys. Standard & Poor downgraded the nation as a whole. We got a downgrade, guys. Pretty sad to say that that went on the report card. First time ever from the AA plus to an AA plus from a AAA rating, meaning that the United States always does pay their bills. If the US were to default, gross domestic product would drop 4 to 5%, and more than 7 million workers would lose their job. That is right. That is what they're projecting if they do not. Even with a very brief default of a couple days, more than 2 million people lost their jobs because the United States cannot get it together to pay their bills. Now, again, depending how deep this goes, depending how long it goes, this could be incredibly difficult. Now, of course, with rates continuing to increase, if we're selling US bonds and they're a lot more expensive to pay out that money, again, that's why the federal government does try to control this. So what about the government programs? Now, this is another big part, guys. When the US is in default, meaning it does not have enough money to pay their bills, it will pause tens of billions of dollars in payments. That is right, guys. Social Security benefits will go away. Medicaid will go away. Veterans benefits will go away. Federal salaries will go away, SNAP benefits go away. All of those get paused when the government doesn't have enough to pay their bills, which means everybody, you know, the elderly, the retired, anyone who is on Social Security, disability, anything like that, all of it is paused, which is just, I mean, literally, you talk about taking a train to a absolute screeching halt in a matter of a couple days. I mean, I don't know how many people can survive without any income whatsoever, veterans included, like myself. There are no really good options. Every option seems like a bad option, is what Yellen is kind of saying. I really don't want to go into the discussion ranking them on how bad of an option they are, guys. But again, we need to get it together. So what is the Republicans' position? And this is kind of the big part. Republicans are concerned about increasing the national debt, which again, we have done pretty much 80 times at this point. It has grown from less than $1 trillion in the 80s to more than $3 trillion today. So in about 40 years, we have literally 3x'd the national budget or the national debt as we continue to do this. They are refusing to lift the debt ceiling unless it is paired with spending cuts, which again, one side of the House does not want to do. House Republicans passed the Limit, Save, and Grow Act last month, outlining the areas that they really want to pare back some of it. The bill would impose sweeping cuts to federal discretionary spending, imposing new work requirements for welfare recipients, and expanding mining and fossil fuel production, to just name a few of them. So what does the White House say? The White House is remaining steadfast that we just need to raise the debt ceiling without condition, which I do not like, as it was done 3 times under the Trump administration. So President Trump did raise the debt ceiling 3 times. Joe Biden, President Biden, has repeatedly called on the House Republican to pass a clean debt ceiling increase. So just go ahead and do this for the 80th time, 81st time. It is really what they're looking to do, guys. And again, it's going to get to a point where the debt that we're carrying, we are paying interest on that debt. Just like you have auto loans, you have a mortgage, you have an unsecured loan, you have credit card debt, we are paying interest. So we take all this money in as a nation. We have all of this money that is what we pay in taxes, and we are paying all of it right back out in interest because everybody else owns our debt, which is really, really tough. So what comes next, guys? Leaders from both parties will have to continue discussions in order to reach it by the June 1 deadline. That is right, guys. We only have a couple weeks till this deadline is there. If they do not, the Treasury will begin making decisions on which bills to prioritize once they've run out of money. So it kind of comes into what are they going to pay first? So that is where, again, it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they're going to pay first. So I hope it gives you a little bit of a better understanding when you see some information about the debt ceiling, guys. And again, in my opinion, there has to be cuts. I understand exactly where the Republicans are coming from. There has to be cuts. We cannot run, the 79th time of raising the debt ceiling for just infinity with an unlimited, printing press of money when it comes to the government. Has to get something under control somehow. And I hope they do come to an agreement because it could affect a lot of people. All right, guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.